What's up? It's this guy. Today we'll be replacing a wax seal, or in this case, a better than wax toilet seal. In case you're wondering what a wax seal is, it's basically where the rubber meets the road or where your turds flow from the toilet into the floor. It's made out of wax, and it's just because the bottom of your toilet's porcelain, the floor is your floor, wood, tile, whatever it is, and then the pipes that they go into are either cast iron or they're made out of PVC. And porcelain, PVC, not the same thing. You can't necessarily make a toilet that screws on, so you've got to come up with a solution so that you can take a toilet, set it onto a PVC or cast iron pipe, and have it have a seal. So the wax seal came into play. So that kind of molds and kind of fits to it. It's watertight, and then your turds can flow freely into the pipe. Somebody got smart and decided, why don't we make them out of rubber? Like, dude, seriously. It'll last longer, right? A wax seal should last about 20 to 30 years. On average. There's things that can contribute to it coming apart, deteriorating, heat, temperature, excessive plunger. Whatever it is, it could cause it to fail. Your wax ring can fail if your house becomes uneven, the floor becomes uneven, the toilet starts to wobble back and forth. That could cause your wax seal to fail. If you attempt to shift your toilet, you can cause it to fail. In my case, if somebody possibly installs a toilet wrong, and what I mean by that is when you put a wax seal down, you have to put the toilet in with precision. You have one shot to set the toilet onto it correctly, or you just have to throw the whole wax seal away. It's no good anymore. And so my house is 7 years old. I talk about this a lot. And it's already leaking. So in my case, I'm pretty sure that whoever installed my toilet probably kind of screwed it up a little bit, figured, it'll be fine. 7 years later, it's leaking. So, fun. Okay, so let's take a quick stop and talk about the tools that you're going to need. Now, obviously, you're going to need a seal. Now, this isn't a wax seal video. So if you're looking for a video on how to do a wax seal, you're going to have to watch the rest of the video. I'm sorry, man. I wish I could help you. This is specifically for the Fluidmaster Universal Rubber Seal, because there's parts in here that are specific to this. So that's what we're going to be covering here. If you've got that, good. You are going to need some kind of silicone sealer. The wax ring does take care of the leakage coming out of your bottom of your toilet. But once you put that toilet back on, you're going to want to run a ring of caulking or seal along the bottom edges of it, and it's not to keep things from seeping out, it's to keep crap from going underneath it or into it. When your husband pees on the floor, it's going to seep underneath. You can't mop in there, so you're going to need some wax seal. In addition, you're going to need a crescent wrench. You can use a socket, you can use pliers. I'm just using a crescent wrench. I'm hoping everybody has one of these. If not, like I said, pliers will work. There's 2 bolts we have to undo. You've also got a hose that we're removing from the bottom of the toilet, so you're going to need one of these. Last but not least, you're going to need a bowl. Your toilet's out of commission, so you have to poo and pee somewhere, right? So you just set this out. Kids got to go to the bathroom. Here you go. Actually, just kidding. This is going to be to catch the water that's coming out of the hose once we disconnect it from the toilet. That's so we don't make more of a mess. There's already leakage on your floor more than likely, so definitely want that. Okay, so here we go. It's party time. So what we're going to do first is we're going to turn off the water to the toilet. Look for the water hose coming out here. We're just going to turn the knob into the off position. That's it. Now we're going to drain the toilet out by just flushing it. And I'm going to hold that open. I want you to notice that you don't hear the water running. The toilet tank is not filling. We're draining it out as much as possible. There will be a little bit of water in your toilet still. It's fine. It'll slosh around a little bit, might leak a little. If you want, you can use a wet vac and suck that water out. That's what I'm going to do because I don't want to make a mess. But it's not absolutely necessary. If there's any plumbers out here, you guys got my back. Oh my God, that was like instant. If anybody watches my channel regularly, you're going to know that I'm constantly trying to justify to my wife why I needed a 6 horsepower wet vac. This is why, honey. So at this point, there's no water in the toilet anymore. There's a little bit of charge in that line. What I mean by this is a tiny bit of water. So what we're going to do now is going to put the bowl underneath it. We're just going to loosen this here. So hose is disconnected. We're going to let the water drip into this bowl down here. The next thing we need to do is to unbolt the toilet from the floor. These caps here are going to come off. You can do it by hand or a flathead screwdriver. I happen to have a putty knife laying around. I'm going to use this in a minute. Might as well put it to use now. I'm just going to pop it off like that. Take the crescent wrench now. And we're going to loosen these bolts over here. The way these bolts work is they sit on a ring and they go underneath, and there's a hex head, and the hex head catches inside the ring that it goes through. And what I've done is I've loosened it where the hex head has come down and it's no longer catching that ring. So I'm going to pull it up and unscrew it at the same time. First bolt on. On the opposite side of the toilet. Oh, so gross. Gross. Opposite side of the toilet, we're going to do this. And I don't know if you can see this, but there's actually wax seeping out through that opening. That's not normal. We're going to repeat this on the opposite side of the toilet. So this next step isn't absolutely necessary, but I like to do it. Take this putty knife here. I'm going to remove some of this caulking here. So when I lift it up, it just comes right up. Now that I've got the bolts off. Now comes the fun part. I'm going to lift the turd throne off the base. And then I'm going to set it onto a towel out of this room. Don't use your expensive fine towels for this. Use those crappy towels that you dry the dog with. By the way, you may want to get some help. I think that thing weighs 100 freaking pounds. Okay, so as I suspected, that's definitely the wax ring. I mean, there's nothing left. I've never in my entire life, and I've probably done this about maybe 8 to 10 times, I have never seen a wax seal that bad. I'm going to take a picture of this, put it on Instagram. I do want to mention that cleaning up this area is going to be very important. You don't want to leave excess water down here. You don't want to leave residue from the old wax ring in here. You want to get this all out. Okay, so here's what comes in the box. Let's open this bad boy up. We have got two guys here. This is the actual seal. This is what your toilet is going to make babies with. It's going to sit right there. That's what the wax ring used to do before it deteriorated. We've also got a spacer. The spacer you're going to use if you've got this pipe recessed below the floor. It's going to go like that. If I try to do that, my toilet will float over the top. So I don't need the spacer, I'm just going to go like this. Now, like I mentioned before, this does come with new bolts. These are actually made out of some kind of a anodized metal so that they don't rust like my previous bolts did. And which is going to be good because holy crap if mine didn't rust out completely. And here's the problem I had earlier. These things they're just spinning here. They shouldn't. There should be a catch in here that prevents them from turning. And for some reason I don't have that, which is disturbing. Once the bolts go on, we're going to put these plastic washers on them. This is supposed to pull them up and keep them in the position where they don't turn. And like I said, mine is kind of jacked up. Mine are still turning for some reason. Okay, anybody who is a real construction worker, home builder, plumber, look away. Those of you that are normal people like me, I was concerned about these. I put the old washers in here, or the old nuts in here to hold this in place. I still have the new nuts that came with the new seal. My plan is that they're not moving now. They're going to be stationary. It's going to help me be able to remove and add them. Again, don't criticize me. It's not going to interfere. It's not going to interfere. I can't even talk. It's not going to interfere with the actual rubber seal though. Here, this is what I'm concerned about. We're going to be golden still. So I'm going to go ahead now and put the toilet on top, and then we're going to caulk it like normal. All right, you bastard. Oh my God, you're heavy. Toilet's back on now, after the appropriate amount of cuss words. Now we're ready to bolt it down. These funky washers here, this is actually to lock the caps back on. These are the caps that go over the bolts. So we're going to reuse those. I could probably clean them, but I'm not going to. Shh, don't tell my wife. Okay, so you put the cap down, the plastic one. Then you put your washer down, not up. And then you put the bolt that came with it. And what we're going to do is we're going to hand tighten it. We're not going to bolt it all the way on yet at full strength. And the reason is if you tighten one side really, really hard, the other side will lift up a little bit, potentially. The other thing is that since your toilet's made out of porcelain, you don't want to over crank it because you could damage your toilet. So we're going to go hand tight. Just like that, where it's a little bit snug. Then you're going to go to the other side and repeat that process, and then after that tight side is snug, you're going to come back with the crescent wrench. So now the other side is somewhat snug. We'll take the crescent wrench and we're going to tighten it up. There we go. Repeat on the other side. This bolt is really long though. Longer than that cap. So we're going to have to cut that. A lot of people don't. I've been in a lot of places where the bolts are still exposed because they're too long. If you have bolt cutters, great. You could snap it, cut it with the bolt cutters, put the cap on. If you don't have bolt cutters, you could probably leave them exposed. It looks better if you put the caps back on if you have bolt cutters. If not, a hacksaw would work as well. I would advise to cut them after you place it because if you cut it before, you might have issues getting the nuts over the edge of that cut. Here we go. My wife buys me all these toys, by the way. And then the cap will pop on, like that. I'm going to repeat on the other side. Now it's time to caulk the edges here with your caulking gun. And hopefully you guys are familiar with how to do this. Once you got the caulking in, then you got to make your bead pretty. I've got this tool that I use. You can use your finger, you could use a wet piece of paper towel. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to smooth out that bead. Last but certainly not least, we're putting the hose back on. All I do now is turn it back on. We're done. All I gotta do now is give it a good old wipe down, get all my man mitts off of it. This is my wife's exclusive toilet. Nobody else is allowed to use it. So we gotta make sure I leave it in pristine condition for her. Thanks for watching and good luck.